Hey, what's up you guys? It's lexi.diy and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Again, we're just gonna hop straight into the video. This is our hallway makeover. Now, this took a lot longer than anticipated, but it was totally worth it. As you can see, this is our hallway before. The trim is a little yellow. We did already paint the walls in a previous video, just a white. And this is the door that I did for our master bedroom in the last video. So that looks great, and that's what all of the doors are going to look like. So I just started taping off the trim, and what's funny is I filmed me taping the trim, but for some reason I did not film me painting the trim. I think it's because I was live on TikTok at that time and I just forgot. I don't know. So anyway, I taped off all the trim, and I did use a little like a drywall float to just get in between the carpet and the trim to paint it so none got on the floor. We are going to be pulling up the carpet, but you know, just so it was less messy. Then Dustin changed the outlets, and this really makes such a huge difference. It only costs a few dollars, and it's a fairly simple thing to do. Wiring can seem a little bit scary, but trust me, you can definitely do it. And just switching them out from the cream color to the white color made a huge difference. We did have a little bit of trouble with this one because there was some excess wiring and it was getting dark, so that's why my flashlight's on it, but we got it done, so that's all that matters. Okay guys, remember how I just said electrical is scary, but anybody can do it? Yeah, well, this is me. I didn't want to wait for Dustin to get home to do the electrical. He works with electrical at work, so that's why I normally let him handle it. But I had seen him do the outlets, and I figured if he can do it, I can do it. It looked fairly easy, so I watched a few YouTube videos just to make sure, and I decided I was going to change out our light switches in the hallway by myself. So basically, I just took the faceplate off, and then I took the old outlet off, and really all you have to do is just put those little wires around the correct screws and screw them on, and then screw the new outlet back in and put the new faceplate on. Now, this was a three-way switch, so there was a little bit of funkiness with the ground wire, as you can see here in a second. I was so proud of myself, and then, yeah, just watch.
Now I'm gonna go make sure that when I turn it on, there's no fire. Hopefully there's not. Looks a little funny, but it's okay. I did it! Oh. Uh-oh. And not good.
It was actually a really simple fix, just with the ground wire, and I fixed it, and then I changed the second hallway switch right here, and this one went a lot quicker because I knew what I was doing. Realistically, after you do the first one, they only take about, I don't know, like maybe 10 minutes to switch out, so definitely worth it. It made such a huge change. You will definitely see in the final reveal. It really makes a huge difference. Only costs a few dollars. Highly recommend. Now, on the other hand, switching out the lights was a lot harder than we thought. So we took down the ugly light that was in the hallway, and Dustin just kind of pulled out the wiring so that we could attach it to our new light. So he put up the bracket thingy that would hold the new light. I know I'm not saying that correctly, so you know, maybe there's a proper term for it, but I'm just gonna call it a bracket thingy. So he screwed the bracket thingy into the ceiling, and then we had to pull the wires through, which we definitely should have done beforehand. So we ended up taking it off and doing the same thing. And by we, I mean Dustin. Obviously, I'm not holding the light. The worst part about putting up this light was honestly just the fact that we had to hold it up there, and we only had one step stool. We didn't even have a full ladder at this time, and we were both having to stand on it so I could hold the light up while Dustin was fixing the wiring. So that was kind of a hot mess. If you guys have any suggestions on how to do this a little bit easier, we would love to know, because we have a lot more lights to go in the entire house, and we just dreaded this process. We did 2 of them, and we only filmed 1 because it was just such a hot mess the first time that we were like, nah, we're not gonna film the second one. But eventually we got it up, and it looked really, really good. Now we took down this old brown air vent cover, and it was so dusty, and there was just dust all over the ceiling. It looked really concerning, but it was actually just dust, so I just wiped it right off, and then we changed the filter. Now, somebody on my TikTok said that this is not supposed to have a filter in it. We just assumed that it was supposed to because we took an old filter out, so let us know. This actually ended up being too small, so we did end up buying another cover to go over it, because this one we just like couldn't get it on. We couldn't get the stuff to line up. Anyway, then Dustin took off the doors to the hallway, and I started to take off the hardware, so the handles and the hinges and everything. And then we started getting ready to do the painting. Now, you guys might have seen my last video where I was showing you guys the process of what I did with my door in my master and my closets and stuff. That's basically the same thing that I'm doing here, but I do have a few new tips because I actually messed some stuff up. But anyway, I decided I wanted to try to citrus strip the linen closet door because it had so much texture. You could tell that this door specifically had been painted, I mean, at least 5 times. It was really gross. I don't think that I put enough citrus strip on this, and I followed the instructions. It said you could leave it on for up to 24 hours as long as you covered it in plastic, but it ended up drying. And as you can see here, it was really difficult for me to get it off. I was super frustrated by this point, so I actually just kind of gave up, but don't worry, I'm gonna come back to this store later and you will see how I fixed it, because I was able to save it. It was just literally a hot mess. Now I am sanding down all of the bedroom and the bathroom doors. I did mess one up, and I ended up having to switch it out for Dustin's office door, and then you can't really tell in the ending shots, but when we put it back on, it was a little bit too big, like literally not even a quarter of an inch too big to close. So I'm gonna have to citrus strip Dustin's door and replace it back with the old one. That didn't make any sense. Anyway, I'm sanding everything down and then wiping the excess off just to make sure that there's no sanding, remnants in the paint when I go to paint it. I did find that the sides that were wood gave me a better finish than the ones that had been painted, and that's why I wanted to citrus strip the first door, but honestly, it was not worth the hassle, so I would not recommend that. Okay, moving on to actually putting the molding on. So this is just decorative molding, and I had the measurements from my first door that I did last week for my master bedroom, and I just kind of followed that and did this a little bit more freehand, but I had cut the pieces with my miter shears, which is super easy, to the same length that I did my master door. And then once I had them in place, I went ahead and just taped them down with some painter's tape, and this kind of held them in place while I checked the spacing and also while I nailed them in. So I just nailed them in, and then I don't put in this video all the details of how I did the doors because I did it in my last video, but I filled in the nail holes and I caulked the edges. before I painted it. So just know that I did do that. I just didn't show it in this video. Go watch my last video if you want to check that out. Now here is where I messed up. Last week, my doors turned out so beautiful and I had no trouble. Like, the finish with my paint sprayer was so good, but I sprayed them laying down. Here I am putting some painting plastic up on the wall because I thought that it would be easier for me to spray them standing up. That was not the case. Don't do that. Don't do that. As you can see, also I'm wearing a respirator. It was raining outside, so I had to close my garage door, but you want to wear a respirator with this because there are a lot of little particles. Now, the backs turned out pretty good, no dripping, but the fronts, especially with the molding, since I had to make sure that I was getting like in and around the molding, I did a thicker layer, and you'll see that it dripped. It dripped really bad, and I had to fix them. Also, I'm wearing a comfy. Don't judge me. It's like the best thing on the planet. If you don't have one, you should get one. I'm not sponsored by them, but I wish I was. Anyway, here's the drip. It's disgusting. So I had to sand it down. My sanding block wasn't doing quite justice to this. It was still raised up, and honestly, I didn't get it fully, but I switched to my hand electric sander, and that seemed to do better. So I did this to both of the doors that had the drips on them, and then I just wiped it away and I repainted them. I didn't pull out my sprayer because honestly I just didn't want to clean it, and I used the brush to get around the trim and make sure that all of the edges were covered, and I went back with my roller, just like a little tiny foam roller that I actually got at Dollar Tree, and we keep like a bunch of these in our house because they're actually really great quality and I love them, and so does my husband. So I just went back and I rolled over it, and this was good because I just did a thin coat. Since I had already gone over it with the paint sprayer, it wasn't patchy at all. This was just to kind of like give it that finished look. So I did that to both of the doors that were messed up. Once those were dry, I went ahead and used a wax to seal it. I used the Bear wax, and it was to give it it's for chalkboard paint, so it still gave it that matte finish that I was looking for, but it's just gonna seal it in. I did not seal my first door, and you can see on the edge of it there are some little scuff marks where the paint is kind of like rubbing off. So I'm gonna go back, fix those little marks on my initial door, and then seal it with this, and I'm really hoping that that will keep them good, because normally you wouldn't paint doors with a matte paint because it's not as durable, but just from even like touching these versus my other one, the wax was a big game changer. And then I'm back to the door that I gave up on earlier. I did another coat of citrus strip, and I only left it on for 30 minutes this time, and then went and peeled it back off. Now, I told you there was so many layers of paint on this that it did not get all of them. It was really satisfying to peel it off, but it was actually very time-consuming, very labor-intensive. After that, tried to sand it because I was like, maybe I could just sand the rest of the paint off. Absolutely not. That didn't work. So I did my third layer, or is it fourth? I don't even know at this point, of citrus strip, and I'm making sure it's really thick. And I only left this on for 30 minutes before I went back and scraped it off. Now, this one was the one. So this one was a little bit easier. It was still kind of hard. There was a little bit of, paint left over. If you guys have any tips on using citrus strip or just stripping paint in general, please let me know, because this was a time-consuming process, and I would so much rather just have sanded the white paint down and have it look a little bit less professional, because I was not feeling this whole process. It took me like 2 days, so I was not into it at all. Corona with some lime. Good vibes flowing, the sun is glowing. After I was finished with that, I went ahead and cleaned the door with some of my Goo Gone kitchen degreaser and my Scrub Daddy, just because it was just a little bit sticky and water was not working. So I did that. I don't know if that is proper or able to be done, but there was not a chemical reaction, so that's good. We love to see that. And then I just sanded down both sides of the door and the sides of the door as well.
I got a sunshine state of mind. Sunshine, 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 sunshine.
After I had sanded the door and wiped it off, I just went ahead with a roller and painted 2 coats on each side. I didn't feel like getting out my paint sprayer because it's a lot to clean and I only had 1 door to do. I do prefer the finish of the paint sprayer, but it can totally be done with a roller if you're not ready to invest in one just yet. This is the cover to our doorbell chime, and I just gave it a quick coat of like a high gloss spray paint so that it wouldn't be this beige color, it would just be more of a white and blend in with the wall. And then Dustin fixed some like little wiring with the doorbell, and then he put the new cover back on.
My name's Dustin, you're watching Lexi.diy Top-Notch House Renovations. Yee!
Thank you, Dustin, for that lovely little plug right there in the middle of my video. I really appreciate it. Anyway, we just started putting on the new hinges. We did end up buying new hinges. They were only like $3. I just wanted them to be black so that they actually matched the new doors, and it really did make such a huge difference. So we did that for all of the doors, and then Dustin held the doors while I screwed the screws in, and that made it a lot easier. And then we started to put on the new doorknobs. We did have a little bit of trouble with this because where like the little latch where the doorknob sits to hold it closed was a little bit smaller, so I did have to like kind of carve it out, but you know, no worries. Anyway, I'm so excited to show you guys. This is such a big transformation. The videos don't even do it justice, but here is the before and afters. So obsessed with how this turned out. What a transformation. I'm in love with these doors. Make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you liked this video, and leave a comment and let me know what you want to do next. Until then, bye guys.